Drum roll, please. If you recognize that sound, then you already know what show we're about to dive into. iCarly. I know we've never delved into the world of live action before. Heck, Toon is part of our name. But trust me, this show feels like a cartoon with how crazy it is. iCarly has plenty in store for our nostalgia juices, so buckle up and get ready for some random dancing! For starters, let's get into some of the main crew and some familiar faces you'll be seeing throughout the show. First up, we have Carly, the main character of the series, and also host of the popular web series iCarly. Who'd have guessed? She hosts the series in her and her brother Spencer's apartment. Speaking of Spencer, let's dive into his goofy ass. He's the older brother of Carly and the owner of the apartment, known for decorating with his crazy sculptures and cooking spaghetti tacos for Carly and her friends. Next, we have Sam, Carly's best friend and co-host of iCarly. Sam is incredibly funny, blunt, and aggressive. But she's a familiar face, and we all know and learn to love her. The other member of their iCarly crew is Freddie, a nerdy but sweet video producer who films all of their iCarly episodes. Some other characters that are less frequent but definitely not less important are everyone's favorite shirtless boy, Gibby. He's a somewhat annoying boy from their class that helps the trio with a good amount of iCarly episodes, and saves their lives more than once, but we'll get into that later. Next up, we have Mrs. Benson, the hag that lives across from Carly, also known as Freddie's mother. She babies Freddie to no end, and even babies Lubert at one point. Lubert is their annoying front desk manager. He's ugly and has a nasty wart on his face that he's obsessed with. That about wraps up our wrap-up. You see what I did there? Anyway, let's get going. Starting off strong, we have iPilot, the perfect way to introduce our characters' cores and start off with their web show journey. The episode begins with Carly taking the blame for Sam after she publicly humiliated their least favorite teacher, Mrs. Briggs, by printing out a massive photo of her head and taping it to a rhinoceros poster. Nice. The only reason Carly took the blame is because Sam has gotten in trouble too many times with the school, and any more punishment would result in her needing to be expelled or suspended. Unfortunately for Carly, the punishment is more than an at-school suspension, and she orders Carly to judge the coming weekend's talent show contestants. Normally, this wouldn't be too bad, but Carly was dead set on going to her favorite concert, Cuttlefish, on the same day near the same time. In defeat, Carly tries to use her older brother Spencer's camera in order to tape the auditions, but it's shown that he's actually using that very camera as a part of his squirrel statue that he's been working on. And personally, I love that Spencer's big reveal is him being absolutely unhinged already. Anyway, with the squirrel camera out of the question, Carly goes to her other best friend who lives across the hall, Freddie, who's shown to be a sort of tech nerd, and revealed to have a massive crush on Carly.
I'm in love with you just want to be friends, and I'm totally cool living with that constant pain.
After asking, he happily agrees to videotape the auditions for her, while she and Sam watch and react to them. Little did they know, Freddie was recording them when they were making numerous crude jokes about Miss Briggs' pointy boobs. Now, don't get me wrong, Freddie did intend to delete that part of the video before posting the auditions to YouTube, but he forgot.
What? There's no way Uh-oh.
Also, reminder, this is a kid show. The girls were at first humiliated, but the audience thought that the two were absolutely hilarious together, and that they should continue doing shows. Later in the episode, they give Miss Briggs the copy of the talent show auditions and who they think should win, but she, frustrated, lets them know that she saw their little comments about her, and that nobody will be moving on with the talent show as they are talentless little children. Well, that was rude. Because of their praise from their previous post, the three decide to form their own web show together and call it iCarly. For their first official show, they invited all the talent show nominees that they had originally wanted to perform onto the show for them, to be able to show off their talent in a safe and loving environment. The episode ends with the show being a massive success, and everyone having a crazy hat party. Because I mean, who wouldn't want to visit one of those? Weird. I Want to Stay with Spencer is a heart-touching episode centered around Spencer and Carly's somewhat goofy relationship. The chaos begins with Spencer's hammer wheel sculpture malfunctioning while they're broadcasting iCarly, with a hammer flying off and almost hitting Carly directly in the forehead. Thankfully, she ducks in time, but if she hadn't, the blow definitely could have been lethal. The next day, Carly's grandfather shows up, and the second Carly isn't in the room with them, unprompted, tells Spencer that he thinks he's a horrible guardian, and that Carly is unsafe in their home environment based on the recent shenanigans he saw on their web show.
Oh, you don't think I'm fun, huh? Ooh!
This upsets Spencer greatly, but not nearly as much as it upsets Carly once he tells her what their grandfather is thinking. Carly instantly starts brainstorming how to make Spencer look like a better guardian. She starts dressing emo, purposely trying to make him become stricter, but he doesn't understand, and actually praises her for going out of her comfort zone and trying new things.
How can you think she looks good like that? I don't. Then why did you tell her she's a little teenager?
This further upsets Carly, as Spencer doesn't seem to know how to discipline her in the slightest, which only makes matters worse. Directly after this, Spencer attempts a home-cooked meal to show some sense of responsibility when it comes to feeding the household, but this backfires as well, when the entire stove catches on fire. After failing horrendously, Spencer agrees to let Carly go, as even he doesn't think he's safe anymore, considering what has been going on as of recent.
I guess this is...
But before Carly leaves, Spencer tells her grandfather that all her favorite foods, the vitamins she takes, and everything he would need to know in order to watch Carly. Not to mention him running out to the lobby when he realizes that Carly forgot her inhaler, of which she hasn't used since she was 7 years old. Spencer forces the inhaler upon their grandfather just in case of an emergency, which is when their grandfather realizes that while Spencer may be an incredibly goofy artist, law student dropout, he truly loves and takes great care of Carly in his own way. He agrees to let Carly stay, which prompts all three of them to rub their tummies and make loud noises in joy. Kinda sounds like me after an all-you-can-eat Chinese buffet. Also, what the fuck? Next, we have Neville, where, you guessed it, we meet the iconic Neville.
Look at this. It's an x-ray of my brain.
An extremely smart and cunning character who's absolutely obsessed with Carly. But we'll get into that later. The episode begins with iCarly being attacked by critics for the very first time. One particular critic claimed that iCarly can't possibly be that good without being reviewed by Neville, who allegedly runs his own popular website called Nevillosity.com. Carly and Sam decide to send in a couple of their videos, and sure enough, he writes back to Carly that he would really like to meet her and get to know her better as mutual friends. Carly is excited about this.
How long have you and Neville been married?
Married?
Until she shows up to his house and finds that he's an 11-year-old bratty boy who lives with his stuck-up mother in a fancy house. He's also extremely creepy towards Carly, showing her a picture of his own brain, and even kisses her on the cheek. Carly is extremely grossed out by the way he was acting, so she smears dip all over his face and leaves with an angry Spencer in tow. Upon their departure, you can hear an angry Neville scream in the background, "You will rue this day." What a brat.
Hi, food delivery guy. What's your name?
Chuck?
Young love is quite a confusing thing, and I Will Date Freddy is no exception to that rule. This chaotic episode begins with Sam and Carly creating a new segment for their show called Blabcam, which allows their audience to talk with them one-on-one. One audience member, Valerie, confesses to the two girls that she has a major crush on Freddy and would love the chance to get to know him better.
And I'd love to go on a date with him.
You won't be jealous?
I'll try to be strong.
Yes!
The girls are extremely excited, as not only is Freddy incredibly awkward and never has any sort of female attention besides his own mother, but also, maybe, if he focused his love towards someone else, then he would stop obsessing over Carly. A date is planned, and all goes really smoothly.
And how about some music?
Great.
Awesome.
Valerie and Freddy become inseparable, which is all cute and innocent until Valerie asks Freddy to be the webcam man for her own web show, on the same day that he's supposed to be the webcam man for iCarly. Oh no! What's even crazier than her asking him is him agreeing. To be fair, Freddy attempts to hire someone to take his place, but Jeremy, the one they did inevitably hire, is incredibly incompetent and makes their web show a disaster. Later in the episode, Valerie approaches Sam and tells her that stealing Freddy was all part of her master scheme to have her own successful web show, and she would like for Sam to join her as her co-host, since iCarly is flopping hard without Freddy. Sam plays it cool, but obviously she goes and tells Carly, who then goes and tells Freddy everything.
She's not your girlfriend. She's just using you.
Then I enjoy being used!
Freddy confronts Valerie. Instead of trying to cover it up, she confesses to everything, in hopes that they could still create her web show and be together. But Freddy remains loyal to his two best friends and refuses her offer. And while he's at it, he also breaks up with her. The episode ends with Freddy happily returning to iCarly, only after getting Sam to admit that he's important to the show. Neville is back at it again in I Rue the Day. Nice callback. His antics begin when he successfully starts to mess up iCarly's show by hacking it and causing disruptions.
I
told you I'd get revenge.
No, you said I'd rue the day.
Same thing!
Meanwhile, Spencer somehow saved the life of one of the band members from the plain white tees.
It's you!
I know!
You're like a hero.
Like?
And is being rewarded with having them come onto iCarly for a private show. The trio is incredibly upset about the Neville business, so much so they attempt to break into his home to hack his own computer system. But even after thinking they succeed, Neville somehow turns it around on them, and they end up just hacking Freddy's again, causing his own computer to crash. Carly eventually gets the idea to call on her military background, as her father is still in the military, and the next time Neville hacks iCarly, an entire military squad shows up at his house to ambush him. They also force him to say, "I'm a giant weenie" on camera before leaving him tied up in his own home. The episode ends with a successful iCarly show, which includes the plain white tees performing for them. One of the most memorable episodes, I Got Detention, begins with Sam getting detention on the same night that iCarly is supposed to film their special 50th webcast episode. Carly and Freddie desperately try to get detention with Sam so that they can somehow still film it, but Freddie is unsuccessful. And Carly barely manages to get a pity detention after trying so hard. The girls end up sneaking Freddie in and assigning one of their friends to distract the teacher in order for them to continue their filming. All is well until they eventually get caught. But even this doesn't stop them, as Mr. Franklin, the principal, walks in and proclaims that his entire family are major fans of iCarly, and that he heard the nasty comments the detention teacher was making about him.
He's weak, spineless.
He throws him out and allows the girls to continue their show. What a G. Meanwhile, during all of this, Spencer has his own adventure involving a massive coffee cup sculpture. So that's good for him. Lubert is an annoying iCarly character that I've yet to introduce fully because he hasn't been quite important enough to the plot thus far. But this episode highlights him and his issues.
Time for a confetti surprise. Hit it!
He gets hurt, and Freddy's mother takes care of him to the point of them catching feelings for each other and dating. In order to get his mother back, Freddy acts helpless, just like she's always wanted, prompting her to baby Freddy and break up with Lubert after his obvious distaste for Freddy and his needs and feelings. That is a nasty excuse of a man. This two-part special episode begins with iCarly being nominated for the iWeb Awards, a huge web show award ceremony located in Tokyo. The trio happily agrees, but they run into a roadblock when Freddy's mother refuses to let him go. Spencer attempts to reassure her that he will be chaperoning the kids.
So it's not like they won't have a responsible adult making sure everything goes smooth.
But this doesn't do much, as, well, Spencer is Spencer, and Mrs. Benson is Mrs. Benson. The only way she agrees is after they reluctantly allow her to accompany them. Unfortunately for the crew, they were only awarded 4 first-class plane tickets, since only 1 chaperone would have been required. Because of their slight predicament, Spencer decides to take it upon himself to sell their tickets and find them a bigger and better ride. An extremely suspicious plane filled with random cargo and possums. The suspicious man flying the plane is a friend of a friend, Sako, whom none of the crew have met before. All is going less than smoothly when they're suddenly forced to skydive out of the plane since the plane is not landing.
You got the job now!
Eventually, after being stranded in a desert, the crew is found by policemen, who kindly escort them to the hotel they were assigned to.
Oh, honeymoon couple.
Once there, they're greeted by their #1 competitors named Kyoko and Yuki, who are more than excited to meet the trio and their guardians, even offering them a special seaweed spa treatment. Little do they know, they're about to be turned into gourmet sushi wraps. Meanwhile, Kyoko and Yuki offer to take the gang shopping in the meantime, to which they agree. But once out, Kyoko and Yuki can't seem to stop arguing. They argue about directions up until the point where they become lost and stranded. While arguing so much, they begin to have a full-on fist fight. Sam breaks them up, and before they know it, Kyoko and Yuki steal their mode of transportation and leave them all stranded. Back at the spa, Spencer and Mrs. Benson quickly realize that their relaxing seaweed wrap was actually wrapped so tight to the point of no return, resulting in them being trapped under all the slime completely naked. Eventually, Spencer uses his abnormally long neck to bite his way out of the situation.
Spencer!
What?
Your towel fell off.
He then quickly uses a sword that was hanging from the wall to break open Mrs. Benson's restraints as well. Eventually, Spencer and Mrs. Benson find the trio due to Mrs. Benson having implanted Freddy with a tracking device as a child. Okay, moving on. Once found, they take them to the iWeb Awards so as to not miss anything. Unfortunately for them, the guards at the iWeb Award show building don't speak English, and clearly they don't look like competing winners to any type of awards as they're covered in mud and grime. Mrs. Benson pulls through, strangely enough, and the trio are able to sneak inside but are quickly apprehended by the guards and are placed in a utility room. While inside, they begin making fun of the guards and their current situation, which Freddy, being the best videographer, decides to videotape them, as it makes for hilarious content. He even gets the brilliant idea to somehow broadcast it to the big screen in front of the iWeb audience. Eventually, a translator finds them and explains to the guards where they're supposed to be, and so they are quickly ushered inside. To cap it all off, the team ends up winning the award for Best Comedy. They're slightly shocked, as they're in Kyoko and Yuki's home country, but it turns out the two are quickly found out from their evil plans and are kicked out of the show. And they're even arrested for kidnapping and abandonment. The episode ends with the gang returning to America with their victory, incredibly happy despite the whole kidnapping thing, until they are offered Japanese candy by Spencer, who forgot that his candy was actually just soap he stole from the hotel. Legend has it you can still hear him coughing to this day. The episode I Kiss begins with the iCarly trio reminiscing on their first kiss. Their stories seem bland and true, but nothing too fun or serious.
And somewhere along the way, she met the guy of her dream.
After Carly and Sam confess theirs, Sam decides to go buy some potato salad, but forgets that she doesn't have any money. She goes back to ask Carly to loan some and overhears Freddie talking to Carly about how he actually hasn't had his first kiss, and then he totally lied earlier when referencing his own kiss. Sam, who's trying to get back at Freddie for handcuffing her to Gibby for an extended period of time, decides to blurt out his secret online during the next iCarly episode. Freddie becomes incredibly hurt by this and leaves the episode, and understandably isn't happy the next day either, when he's being bullied throughout his school day.
I am Freddie Benson and I have never kissed a girl.
It gets so bad that he skips an entire week of school and refuses to talk to his mom or show up for any of their iCarly rehearsals. Sam actually begins to feel bad and decides to announce to everyone on iCarly that night that she too has never had her first kiss, and that everyone needs to back off or she will seriously hurt them. She then goes to Freddie to apologize and confesses to him that she hasn't had her first kiss either, and that she lied about everything too. The two then decide, after feeling bad about themselves for a minute, to kiss, just to get it over with. They then swear to not tell a singular soul, not even Carly. Some of you may be familiar with Fred.
I'm a good singer.
No!
Either from his movie or his brief TV show, but the iCarly gang meets him in this episode. I Meet Fred. The episode begins with Freddie claiming publicly online that he doesn't find Fred's videos funny at all. This depresses Fred as he's a big fan of the iCarly crew, and he decides to stop making Fred videos altogether. Everybody gets mad at Freddie, and by association iCarly, for shutting Fred down, and starts boycotting them at school. The iCarly gang travels to Fred, real name Lucas, and apologizes for their words as they didn't mean to upset him. He explains to them that he wasn't actually mad. He was just doing it all as a big stunt in order for his and their videos to get more views.
That's my dog Tibbles.
Ah! Tibbles has my foot! Ah!
The two web shows then decide to film a makeup video of them being friends to finish off the episode. How many of you guys knew this episode existed before watching this video? Twins begins with Sam revealing to Freddie that she is a twin named Melanie, but he refuses to believe it as Sam was just making fun of him for being super gullible.
She gets perfect grades, never gets in trouble, always has clean hair. She makes me sick.
Sam decides to leave Freddie alone, but he chooses to ask Melanie out on a date in order to prove that she isn't Sam, as Sam would literally never agree to do such a thing. He's shocked, however, when Melanie agrees and even kisses him on the cheek. Freddie is so bewildered by this that he becomes paranoid, trying to figure out if it's actually Sam or not. The two are never seen in the same room until the very end of the episode, when it's revealed to the audience that she does actually have a twin sister. But Freddie never gets the privilege to see the two together, and leaves the episode still thinking that Sam is pulling an elaborate prank on him.
You do have to start working out.
Stop squishing it!
Meanwhile, we are introduced to Chuck, a little bitch boy baby that Spencer has to babysit even though they're apparently sworn enemies. Unfortunately for Spencer, Chuck gives him absolute hell and ends up being the worst kid to babysit ever.
Math camp.
Math camp?
Yes. Here's a brochure.
I Fight Shelby Marx begins with, well, Carly challenging Shelby Marx, a pro fighter, on iCarly. Obviously, she does this as a joke, and doesn't think anybody will think she's being serious, since clearly she isn't a fighter herself and would literally die. Unfortunately for Carly, however, Shelby's PR team gets wind of her challenge.
Oh, this is bad.
Oh, man, did someone post more pics of my mom in her bikini?
And she ends up showing up to Carly's apartment to accept her challenge and schedule the fight. Carly absolutely freaks out, and is only slightly helped when Sam and Shelby explain to Carly that the fight isn't actually real. And most fights that are broadcasted like that have a specific script anyway, so nothing bad will happen to her. Shelby actually ends up being super nice, so Carly decides to somewhat listen, which calms Carly slightly. However, at a conference, Carly is accidentally pushed into Shelby's grandmother, which causes her to fall. Shelby becomes infuriated and threatens Carly with her actual strength during the fighting match, but Carly talks her down and explains that it was just an accident. Neville somehow never caught wind of all the commotion regarding Carly and Shelby and sees an excellent opportunity to mess with Carly's life once he sees reports on the accident. He then puts together a video that clearly shows that Sam was trying to push Carly, meaning the two girls purposely planned the whole thing and wanted to cause physical harm to Shelby's grandmother. He then shows Shelby this, which makes her go full force during the fight, scaring Carly so much that she's forced to grip onto Shelby's leg until the fight inevitably ends. The second she's allowed out of the ring, she sprints away from Shelby. I would too. Shelby eventually confronts Carly in an environment other than the ring, and explains to Carly the video that she was shown by that weird kid, Neville. After explaining to Shelby that Neville is actually an ugly weasel rat, they lock him up in the ring and beat him up with Sam.
Sup, Neville? Okay, you I'm scared of.
The episode ends with Shelby appearing on iCarly, officially squashing their feud and holding a spitting competition. I Think They Kissed is about exactly what you think it is. The confession arises after Sam is put under laughing gas at the dentist office. Carly finds out that Sam hasn't been to the dentist in 12 years. This greatly concerns Carly, as it should, so she forcibly takes Sam to the dentist even though she's extremely nervous to do so. They end up putting her on laughing gas once there in order to calm her down, which is funny at first, until she confesses to Carly about her and Freddie's kiss. After the laughing gas wears off,
And she said you two kissed!
I'm coming, Mom!
Carly forcibly sits the two of them with many questions about their kiss, and as to why they both kept a huge secret from her. Meanwhile, some prisoners that Spencer has been trying to teach art to in a prison use a giant sculpture of pants to escape.
Hello.
Hiya. Hey.
And end up tying the trio up and escaping through their front door during their kiss questioning. The trio continue asking and answering questions, and while they do answer almost all of the questions, they're not able to answer the most important one, which is, did they actually enjoy the kiss? Now they're just about to answer, but Spencer barges in on their conversation, obnoxiously playing the banjo. The episode ends leaving the audience wondering if there was actually some chemistry behind the taboo smooch, and if it's possible to escape prison in some pants. In the iCarly Awards episode, the iCarly crew decides to give out awards to the 10 best submitted homemade videos. They leave Spencer in charge of creating the 10 one-foot awards, but he misinterprets them and creates one large 10-foot statue instead. In order to make up for his lack of time, he decides to use 8 German male models to form a sort of production line type of situation in order to get out the awards as quickly as possible.
I got it.
Hold it like this.
I got it.
See what I say? Just put your hands down here.
I got it!
Unfortunately for Spencer, their manager shows up and attempts to take them to their location for their photo shoot that day. In order to avoid this problem, Spencer gets the brilliant idea to duct tape their manager and leave him in the hallway.
And you again!
At the end of the episode, Spencer is awarded with the Best Brother and Best Trophy Builder award, and is given the 10-foot award he'd built previously. The episode ends with the photographer breaking free from his tape and chasing Spencer throughout the apartment. The episode I Saved Your Life is the highest rated episode of iCarly, and also the second most watched telecast in Nickelodeon's history, second only to All Growed Up from the Rugrats show. It begins with Carly almost being hit by a taco truck, but right before impact, Freddy pushes her out of the way and sacrifices his body, potentially to save her life. In doing so, he ends up breaking his arm and spraining his leg. Carly visits him in the hospital and is so overwhelmed by his chivalry
Are we walking the right way?
Yeah, just keep going.
that she confesses feelings for him and kisses him on the mouth. After returning from the hospital, Sam makes fun of Freddie and Carly's relationship and claims that Carly doesn't actually have feelings for Freddie. She only has feelings for what he did for her. With Sam's doubts cluttering his mind, Freddie decides to put a hold on the relationship until after he's healed, and he doesn't quite believe Carly's feelings. He lets her know that once he's healed, if she still wants to be in a relationship with him, then she totally can, and that he'd love that. But he needs to make sure it's actually real before getting his hopes up. She agrees, and he leaves, extremely regretful and upset about his loss of the girl he's had a crush on for his entire life.
When we kissed before, I didn't realize that would be our last one.
Shockingly enough, in I Was a Pageant Girl, we learn that Sam used to be a pageant show girl and was actually amazing at it. However, there was a girl named Leanne Carter who would always beat her. One day, Leanne fell down some stairs and was unable to compete, finally letting Sam win. Because of the unfortunate situation, the pageant committee assumed that Sam purposely pushed Leanne down the stairs, since, well, have you met Sam? Anyway, they banned her from competing for 7 whole years. Sam's memories of her pageant past are brought to her after someone named Ashley that goes to their school brings up the fact that Leanne is on a 99 pageant winning streak. And this next week's competition will be her 100th. This absolutely enrages Sam, and she decides to coach Carly and enter her into the pageant instead of herself, as she assumes she is still banned. It's only until right before the competition that she learns that she was released from her band 6 months ago. Carly and Sam excitedly enter her into the pageant in place of Carly.
My name is Samantha Puckett. I'm from Seattle and I love fried chicken!
And she ends up winning due to her amazing tap dancing production. She totally tap danced her way to victory. Just look at her go.
Am I something you could buy at a store?
Yes!
You can?
Yeah, they have duck stores.
I Space Out begins with the iCarly team being offered to produce an episode up in space.
Girly cow on DVD. Yep. Uncensored.
In order to test if the trio can handle conditions in space, they're put in a simulation for 36 straight hours. At first, Carly is the one who remains level-headed and attempts to calm the others down when they start to tweak out.
How long has it been so far? 9 minutes.
But she's the one that ends up going so crazy that she smashes open a window and crawls out of it in order to escape their small space. The iCarly team is officially disqualified. As if they were going to actually go to space, Carly could have killed them all. Meanwhile, during all of this, Spencer is being haunted by a small child who won't seem to leave him alone, and also won't leave his apartment. He confides in Sacco, who claims that Spencer is just hallucinating a little girl since he misses Carly. Upon Carly coming back home, it's revealed that the little girl was in fact real, as Carly sees her in the kitchen. But Carly makes the child leave once she's found out, so Spencer never actually finds out that he wasn't going crazy.
Because I know you're just my imagination. So I'm just gonna open the fridge.
I Believe in Bigfoot begins with the trio and Spencer hearing about a Bigfoot sighting on TV. Carly is annoyed since she wrote an essay over the creature in 5th grade but got an F because Bigfoot isn't real. Well, that's boring. Spencer doesn't really care that much about Bigfoot, as he's more concerned with his beav coon that he's been obsessing over recently. If you couldn't guess the title of the animal, it's a beaver hybrid with a raccoon. The gang heads out to the woods that they overhear a famous Bigfoot researcher mention in order to try their best to find Bigfoot separately from the press.
Welcome to Mount Baker National Forest!
Once there, they have certain complications. Spencer gets attacked by something and claims it's his legendary beav coon, which annoys the trio as they think he's full of shit. Until the audience is shown a beav coon perched in a tree watching Spencer get ridiculed for his beliefs. Later on in the episode, the trio thinks they see Bigfoot for real, but are shocked when it's revealed that it's actually just the famous researcher dressed up like Bigfoot so that he can record himself and get more press.
But I know he's out here. Just like I wrote about in my new book. Bigfoot.
We know about the book!
While arguing, the gang hears crazy noises coming from their RV, and when they go to investigate, they find that the van is missing. The episode ends with the real Bigfoot seen driving away in their RV while loudly roaring in triumph. You know, I wonder what Bigfoot listens to on the radio. Now we're looking at Psycho. So there's a girl that goes to the trio's school named Nora, who is extremely lame and nobody's friends with her. Because the trio feels bad for Nora, they decide to actually show up to her birthday party and even decide to begin an iCarly webcast, broadcasting to their school that they're there, and they're having a good time. A large number of their classmates show up, and Nora has a good birthday. The trio is excited that they've done a good deed for innocent Nora, until she locks them all in her basement, takes their phones, turns off their locations, cancels their appearance at a webicon, and simultaneously texts their loved ones that they're at a webicon and things are going smoothly. After multiple failed attempts to escape, the trio decides to put together a secret message for Gibby, in hopes that he'll get the hint that they're trapped somewhere. Probably the worst person to try and figure out a secret message, but anyway. In their message, they wish him a happy birthday and apologize for not being able to go to his birthday as they are still stuck at Webicon. It should be noted that it isn't actually Gibby's birthday, which should give him a slight hint that something must be wrong. Gibby does eventually decode the message, so he takes Guppy, his younger brother, with him, as he was in charge of watching him for the day.
Weird friend's weirder little brother.
Like you're normal?
He arrives at Nora's house, only to become suspicious of her when she mentions her basement after he mentioned the trio, even though he had no idea that she even had a basement. He breaks into the house and begins physically fighting Nora. Meanwhile, Guppy finds her keys, runs to the basement, and releases the trio. Sam knocks Nora out, and she's sent to juvenile detention. The episode ends with the trio, along with Gibby, Guppy, and Spencer, singing 100 Bottles of Milk on the Wall, happily around a campfire. It's Carly's birthday, and Spencer is determined to make her birthday special this year.
He took me to a petting zoo.
How was I supposed to know the goat would do that?
Don't talk about what the goat did!
He goes out of his way to make a super cool gummy bear lamp that complements her goofiness and style. Unfortunately, this super cool lamp does end up burning down all of Carly's room, and she's left with nothing.
If you want, you can stay with me and my mom.
Fortunately, though, one of their grandfather's fancy watches that burned was worth $85,000. Spencer doesn't tell Carly the actual amount of money that he received, but he got a reimbursement check for the watch. He tells her instead that he got $500 for it. Meanwhile, he encourages Carly to get a job in order to get her out of the house, and she starts working at the Groovy Smoothie, one of the trio's favorite places to eat, and is bossed around by Tebow.
Morning, Tebow.
I'm your boss now. You gotta call me Mr. Bo.
The owner of the Groovy Smoothie, to do crazy tasks in order to distract her for long enough for Spencer to redecorate. When she returns from her first shift on the job, she's surprised to find a fully loaded new bedroom that had every little girl's jaw drop. I'm talking about a movable wardrobe, ice cream sandwich couch, trampolines, and even a fire-resistant gummy bear chandelier. The episode ends as Carly happily hugs Spencer and admires her cool new room. In I, Sam's Mom, we finally meet Sam's mother. And if we have any Glee fans in the audience, you will surely recognize her as Sue Sylvester. Anyway, it all begins when Sam decides to move in with Carly and Spencer after getting fed up with their mother for the last time. This is fine with them, as they love Sam deeply, but they slowly begin to go insane due to her being a horrible house guest. In order to get Sam to move out without being rude, Carly goes behind Sam's back and takes her to a psychiatrist's office in hopes to mend her and her mother's relationship so that she will go home on her own.
You married?
Excuse me?
I don't see a ring.
The only issue is that the psychiatrist decides to lock them all in a box together and won't let them leave until they see that they've gotten over their differences.
You tried talking to those freaks!
The two argue and are at a complete standstill when all of a sudden Carly begins having a panic attack. As we learned in I, Space Out, Carly suffers greatly from claustrophobia, which means she can't handle small spaces. In order to save Carly from her torture, Sam and her mother make up, which causes the psychiatrist to unlock the door, finally letting Carly be free. Sam agrees to go home with her mother, as their makeup wasn't all just for show, leaving Carly and Spencer to finally be rid of her. Meanwhile, during all of this, Freddy accidentally catches a robbery on camera at the Groovy Smoothie. While this is a great thing,
are you worried that he might come after you for revenge, given his violent nature?
Tebow freaks Freddy and his mother out as he tells the news Freddy's full name and his address and the number of his apartment and level of which it is on. Because Tebow basically sent Freddy and his mother to a death sentence, they too try to room with Spencer, but he literally can't handle them and just changes their apartment number with one down the hall. Horrifying enough, the robber does show up. Freddy and his mother can hear him in the hallways, but he passes as he isn't at the right door. This episode begins with Neville being recorded while screaming at a little girl. He obviously gets a lot of backlash for this, and a lot of people decide that they want to cancel him for his outburst.
Were you gonna buy this lollipop?
iCarly is ecstatic. because of this, as they hate Neville and understandably want him to fail. After all he has put them through, they even host a party celebrating his downfall, as they won't ever have to worry about him again. Shortly after this party, he shows up at Carly's front door, depressed, dirty, and even a little wet. He begs the trio to help heal his public image, as he doesn't have any friends and doesn't know who else to turn to in this trying time. The trio reluctantly agree, as they've never seen Neville so distraught before. Their attempts somewhat work after they have Neville do some public service and record him being nice to people.
Hey Neville, why don't you just take a golf club and...
Although it's all for naught after he's recorded screaming at a man in a wheelchair.
I'm on a cow.
Sam starts acting incredibly weird in IOMG. Carly and Freddie end up using a mood reader device to see what's wrong with her, and shockingly find out that Sam's in love. Carly and Freddie assume that she's in love with Brad.
In love? With Brad?
A conventionally attractive guy in their class that Sam has been eyeballing recently. Sam emphasizes her dislike for Brad and insists that he isn't who she's in love with, prompting Carly to confront Sam. But she still assumes that it must be Brad, because who else could it possibly be? Once alone, Freddie approaches Sam about the same issue and asks who she's in love with, to which Sam then kisses Freddie on the lips. Carly, as per usual, finds out about her friend's secret moments, this time by watching from a nearby windowsill. Can the two ever have a moment alone? Jesus! The episode ends in this cliffhanger and isn't brought up again until I Lost My Mind, which we will get to after I Party with Victorious. I'm sure most of you have heard of or seen Victorious, which is another hit Nickelodeon TV show that we'll most likely be covering in the near future. If y'all want this, make sure to leave a comment and subscribe. Anyway, in this special crossover episode, I Party with Victorious, we get to see the two franchises interact. It all begins with the audience finding out that Carly has recently been dating a guy named Steven, and that he's been traveling from Seattle to Los Angeles since his parents are divorced. Little does Carly know that when he visits Los Angeles, he's also visiting his other girlfriend, Tori Vega, the main character of Victorious. The show then cuts to Hollywood Arts High School, where Andre explains that his uncle sold a house to Kenan Thompson that he's allowed to throw a small party at.
So, how was your,
Meanwhile, Tori posts a photo of her and Steven on Slap.com, and Sam sees it. She emphasizes her concerns to Carly and Freddie, and the trio decide to do some digging on Tori Vega, where she lives, and her friends. While searching for information, they come across the party invite that Andre accidentally sent out publicly, much to his worry, as he was only supposed to have a small party. But I digress. The trio decide to travel to Los Angeles and attend the party in order to see if Steven is actually cheating on Carly or not.
Come on, we broke up 6 years ago!
You shattered my heart!
In order to not be recognized by their web show, the trio are put in heavy prosthetic makeup done by one of Spencer's exes. She makes them unrecognizable, except for Gibby, who wanted to tag along. He's just given a mole and sunglasses. Once at the party, the trio attempt to investigate, and eventually Carly sees Steven give Tori the exact same special bracelet he gave her. Carly corners Tori and explains everything, taking off her disguise and showing her her true self. The two girls then get Kenan involved and end up exposing Steven's ass live on an iCarly web show.
Steven's a cheater.
And a liar!
In the end, the two shows combine intro songs with a banger, Leave It All to Shine. It should be noted that during all of this, Sam did win a rap battle. This isn't important, I just thought it was fun. I Lost My Mind begins with the audience finding out that Sam has been missing for 3 days, and Carly and Freddie are extremely worried about her. The two decide to track her pair phone and find that she's currently at a mental hospital. They meet her there and find that she checked herself into the mental hospital because she thought she was insane for liking Freddie. Not to play devil's advocate, but if someone thought they were insane enough to check themselves into a mental hospital, if they thought they were in love with me, then I would be incredibly offended. Freddie wasn't, however, and had a long talk with Sam about her feelings and how she isn't insane for feeling these things based on their history.
There's no way I'd ever go out with you or be your little girlfriend, and dang, this place makes good quesadillas!
After deciding she isn't insane, Sam attempts to leave the mental hospital, but is stopped by the doctors as she must have a parent's permission in order to be released. Sam's mother is currently in a foreign country getting laser hair removal.
Where's your father?
You tell me!
and Sam's father isn't present in her life. So Spencer comes up with the great idea to dress up like Sam's mother in order to release her from the hospital. At first, the plan isn't going as bad as one might think, until one of the people Spencer knew in college happens to be in the waiting room and rips his wig off, revealing his true appearance.
We get it, Gary!
With Sam still stuck in the mental hospital, the trio decides to film iCarly from the hospital that night and have a heavy viewer engagement episode asking them questions and such. One of which is if Sam is insane for liking Freddie. Nobody thinks she's insane for her feelings, and right at the end, Freddie decides to get on and tell Sam how he really feels about the situation by kissing her live on the web show. The episode then ends with Carly ending their web show with a rushed goodnight. I Still Psycho resumes the iCarly gang's run-in with the infamous Nora. The episode begins with the trio being invited to give their opinion on if Nora should be locked up for longer or not. At first, they don't want to release her, but after seeing her cry with her mother and father, they give grace and allow her to be released. Once released, they go to great lengths of having dinner with Nora in hopes to mend the relationship.
This place brings back the memories, huh?
Yep.
And find a mutual understanding between them all. Unfortunately, and unsurprising in my opinion, Nora and her mother prove to be insane and lock them up again. They aren't able to escape, and are even more disappointed when Nora's father comes home to find that he's just as crazy as her and her mother, and he was in on it too.
Oh, come on!
Freddie ends up using a zap pen to zap his chip in his brain, which instantly alerts Mrs. Benson that he's in trouble somewhere. During the alert, Tebow was trying to convince Mrs. Benson to let him stay in her spare room in their apartment. Because he was over, he takes Mrs. Benson on his motorcycle and they head over to rescue the beloved iCarly team together. Once there, a fight breaks out, and Mrs. Benson proves her worth by fighting Nora's mother with a sword. Eventually, Sam is able to use the shock pen on Nora and her family, which knocks them all out, only to be placed in jail yet again. In this special episode, I Shock America, the iCarly crew is invited onto the Jimmy Fallon late night show. Unfortunately, Gibby's pants fall off on national television and he is shown nude.
Join me tomorrow night when my guests will remain fully clothed. Good night, everybody!
At first, the internet blames Jimmy for allowing child nudity on his show, and it becomes quite a difficult scandal. iCarly then comes out claiming that it was all their fault, and that the internet shouldn't be blaming Jimmy for the unfortunate incident. Little did the iCarly crew know, the charge for showing nudity on television is $500,000. They are incredibly distraught by this, as there's literally no possible way for them to come up with that much money and inevitably come to terms with the fact that they're going to get shut down because of Gibby's cheeks. Jimmy Fallon invites them all back and reveals that he came up with the money by tweeting a GoFundMe on Twitter. The episode ends with the iCarly crew happy and content with their web show continuing, and their newfound friendship with the famous Jimmy Fallon. The iCarly gang gets alerted that Sam's mother is being held in jail in Las Vegas, and that the amount of money to bail her out will be $2,500. In order to come up with the money, Spencer suggests that they all go down to Las Vegas and try to pawn off some random things. They're barely successful in their money-gaining journey, as their objects that they try to pawn are worth basically nothing.
What do you think of that? Oh, a potato chip.
They end up putting the money inside of Gibby's fake head that he brought. As they all leave to go get Sam's mom out of jail, they quickly realize that Gibby isn't with them. Gibby, being stupid as per usual, decided to try and sell his pants.
Can I touch it?
Sure.
Oh, nice!
And gets the money stolen from him in the process. Thankfully, a little girl decides that she really wants Gibby's fake head. Her rich father offers him $10,000 to pay for said head, but he declines. Once found and understanding of the situation, Sam beats Gibby into submission to the father. The episode ends with the gang happily going back to the jail to bail Sam's mother out. This touching last iCarly episode begins with Carly finding out that she's not going to be able to attend the annual father-daughter dance with her dad that she never is able to see or be around. She's incredibly distraught, as she's getting too old and this dance would be her last chance to be able to attend. And because she never sees her dad, it's one of the only times that she gets to be near him. Spencer offers to take her, but he falls ill. Freddie and even Gibby try to take the man's place, but nothing seems to cheer Carly up. Suddenly, a surprise guest arrives. Her father. He takes her to the dance, despite his previous cancellations, and they have an amazing time. Carly is excited to continue the day with her father, but he announces that he'll be needing to head back to his military base in Italy. Carly is upset with this, and he offers to let her come live with him on base if she'd like. Carly obviously is sad about leaving her friends, but she truly does miss her father so much, and honestly needs some parent time in her life. Sam and Freddie also encourage her to leave, as they know how much her father means to her, leaving her to make the final decision to go.
I love you.
I love you too, kid.
While saying their goodbyes, Spencer reveals to his father that he dropped out of law school a long time ago, finally confessing his greatest sin that he's mentioned several times throughout the series. Carly's father is at first upset, but then seems to understand that law school could never be for Spencer. The episode ends with a touching goodbye and a wish for a fun future with all of them together again.
I'm Carly.
I'm Sam.
And this has been iCarly.
Well, that's it for this one, folks. I hope you enjoyed our recap of iCarly. Please comment down below what you'd like to hear from us next. See you next time.